Welcome back to MVM. Today I'm bringing you a look at another brand new game coming out soon. This one is called Myth and Goal from Blacklist Games. Now, due to supply logistics and the overall pandemic, they were not actually able to get me a physical prototype of this game, but I've been very excited about it and I've been loving playing it online through Tabletop Simulator, so I still wanted to give you a look at the game. So I'm going to be using footage from that digital version. So with that being said, what you're seeing here online is a close approximation of what the actual game is going to look like, but it is not obviously identical. So these are prototype components at the most prototype possible. But let's jump in and talk about this game, and you might get an idea of kind of how to play it, what it's like, and whether or not this game is going to interest you. So first of all, this is a sports themed game, but with a fantasy twist. The idea is that peace has come to a fantasy world that was once rife with warfare. Instead of fighting battles now, they compete in this game called Mythball. You're going to have several different factions, which are basically teams, and you're going to be able to choose these teams to play, and you're going to be able to build your own set of players out of all of the characters that come in these team decks. Now, this is a 1v1 game, so you're going to be playing head-to-head against another player, with one player playing the home team and another player playing the away team. Each one of these characters comes with both a card, which has all of its relevant statistics, and a mini, which is actually going to set out on the field and represent where that character is located. You're going to have a variety of other components, for example, the ball, which is one of the most important objects in the game. And then you're going to have things like these flag tokens, which will represent the penalties that you could take over the course of the game. You're also going to have two sets of dice, one set for home, one set for away, and a set of gamble dice. These are dice that you're going to roll when you're feeling a little bit risky. The payoff can be great with these. They have some double success sides, but also they have more incursions, which are the penalties that you can take while playing. So if you gamble with a big play, you could end up with a yellow or red flag. So all of these things are going to be used in the game. You're going to set up the game kind of like what you see here. Again, this was a pre-set up Tabletop Simulator version, but you're going to see the board, which is the actual field, and you're going to have two basically end zones on either side. These are called bastions, and your goal is to either run the ball through the bastion to score points or throw the ball through the goal, which is suspended up in the air. So either way that you do it, you're just trying to score the most points, and you're trying to beat the other team over 3 periods. And the game is divided up into these periods, with each period representing a few turns. So you're going to take turns back and forth, and on your turn you're going to be able to activate all of your players. So that's where the actual tactical strategy of the game comes into play. You get to choose your team. Each one of these character cards has a specific role to play, and there's also going to be focus cards and tactics cards. So your focus is going to represent something asymmetric about your team. Not only are all of your character cards going to give you different abilities, but your focus card will as well, and you're going to have a deck of tactics cards. Now, these tactics cards are the same for both players, but you're going to look in and you're going to take out the cards that are for your faction and for your focus card. So you're actually building an asymmetric deck of tactics cards that are just for you. And this focus card and these tactics cards are going to give you certain advantages over the course of the game. Not only that, the way that you compose your team can potentially give you some advantages as well. You need to decide if you want a team that's fast and strong or a team that is more resilient. You'll see all these stats represented on these character cards: their agility, their power, their skill, their resolve. You'll also see speed and fatigue limit. Players are going to be taking fatigue as they run across the field and take these actions. So the way that you draft and build your team is important, and also the way that you position your team out on the field to start is important. Each team faction card is going to have a little quick start setup that you can use to just jump right into gameplay, but if you're a more experienced player, you can actually place your players out in specific patterns to try to counter whatever the opponent is doing. Now, the formation is going to be a little different based on whether you're home or away. The home player is always going to control the ball at the start of the first period. Then the away team is going to control the ball at the start of the second period. And then for the third period, control is going to go to whoever is behind in points. Now, the actual gameplay revolves around the idea of taking tests. Everything that you're trying to do in this game is linked to a certain test, which is linked to a certain attribute. What's cool about this is that they break down all of the actions on a player aid. It shows you exactly what tests you need to make, It shows you how to build your dice pool, because each one of these tests can give you bonuses for supporting players. For example, if you're trying to tackle, you're going to be making a power skill roll, but you're also going to be supported by every player that's adjacent to them. So if you can surround an enemy player, you're going to get a big bonus to that tackle check. So all of these tests are going to be different, whether you are the one that's the aggressor who is making the roll, or if you're the defender who is defending against that attack. In some cases, you're rolling different attributes. So you need to be careful. When you're tackling someone, like I said, with your power, they're actually rolling their resolve. So it doesn't matter if they have a low power level. If they have a high resolve, you're probably not going to be able to tackle them. Now, there are a few restrictions with a lot of these abilities and these skill tests. There are certain actions that you can only take if you are the one holding the ball, and there are certain actions that you can only take if you're not holding the ball. For example, you can't pass if you're not the one holding the ball. You have to actually be the ball carrier to try to make a pass attempt. Now, the actions that you take are going to be actions that you would expect for any kind of sports game. You're going to be able to run, grab the ball, try to break through that bastion. You're going to be able to evade, try to dodge other players along the way. You're going to be able to dash, which is just like a quick spurt of energy. You're going to be able to tackle players, trying to get the ball away from them or clear space for your ball runner to make their way through. Now, each of these actions, like I said, are going to give some amount of fatigue to your players. Your players can even be knocked down to clear a space. When they get back up, they're going to take fatigue for that. So all of these actions are going to add fatigue to a player. Whenever a player reaches their max level of fatigue, they're going to be exhausted. You're going to flip over the card, clear off all the fatigue, and then basically continue playing on the exhausted side of that player. If they're then exhausted completely, they're considered collapsed. They're removed from the game entirely. Another way a player can be removed from the game is through those infractions like I listed off. They can get yellow cards and red cards based on taking gambits or being penalized by certain tactics cards or focuses that other players might have. As these penalties are incurred, eventually your player can be ejected. So you're going to be wanting to sub in these players throughout the game. And that's actually something you can do, because the game is broken up into specific phases, and each player is going to go through all these phases before passing it back. And you're going to do this, like I said, back and forth until the end of the period. Then you're going to reset for a new period. You're always going to be able to call a timeout at the start of your turn, which lets you kind of make some changes to your lineup, swapping out characters. You're going to be able to do actions on your turn, and you're going to be able to activate every single one of your players. So you can go through in whatever order you want and activate every single one, and you could use as many actions as they can actually use and perform. And of course, you're going to be adding fatigue for all these things. So you're going to be able to do crazy combinations. You're going to be able to do some cool synergy moves with these different characters in order to try to eventually score a goal. Now, if you do score a goal, either by running it through the bastion or by actually throwing it through the hoop, then the turn ends. So scoring is just the end of your turn. Everything resets back with the other players. Then they take possession of the ball. Once you're done, you pass this little hourglass token to the next player. Then they proceed to take their turn, trying to get the ball potentially from you if they're the defender, and try to score points against you on their side. Like I said, once someone scores, the game kind of resets for the next round. Or if you reach the end of a period, which means you've passed that token back and everyone has taken 4 turns, then you're going to move on to the next period. You're going to reset, you're going to change possession of the ball, and you're going to move on to the next period. You're going to play over the course of 3 periods, and at the end of the 3rd period, whoever has the most points is going to win. So there's a lot of things that factor into whether or not you're going to be able to win or not. Like I said, there's 2 ways to score points, which is running the ball in and throwing the ball in. Throwing the ball in or shooting is only going to get you 2 points, whereas actually running the ball in is going to get you 5 points. So you're going to be able to judge that. You can maybe throw the ball in more often, make those shots with characters that are really good at shooting and score more points that way because you're doing it more often. But if you really want to be able to push through the bastion, you're scoring 5 points every time, you might be able to get more points that way. So you have to decide kind of how you want to focus your team. And again, that focus is decided based on your team composition, which characters you've chosen, which focus cards you've chosen, which tactics card you have in play at any given time. So there's a lot of different things that are going to factor into your strategy beyond just your ability to manipulate your players in the field. So if you've ever been interested in miniatures games, this is a good entry point into that, because you're not going to be collecting a ton of miniatures. You're not going to be trying to build armies or anything. You're literally just looking at a deck of cards for your team and choosing the players that you think are best going to serve the team that you want to build as the team manager. So this is Myth and Goal. The game is coming to crowdfunding soon, so you'll be able to take a look at their crowdfunding page. I'll put the link below so you can take a look at that. Meanwhile, please let me know in the comments below which factions you're most excited to play. Let the publisher know which factions you'd love to see, what kind of fantasy races or whatever you'd like to see in this game. I know, for example, I'd love a dragon team. That would be so cool. So thank you so much for watching today, and as always, for liking and subscribing and following us here at MVM. We'll see you next time, but until then, keep having fun at the table.
Congratulations, you got to the end of one of our videos. Now, if you want more practice, just click on the video over here. It's another video. You might not have seen it yet, so click on it. If you don't want to do that, at least click on the subscription button below. That always helps us. And if you want notifications, please ring that bell.